Hello, happy March 25th. We have very few of these left. In fact, should be exactly 6 left. And today's topic is philosophy. Cool. So I got obsessed with philosophy when I was around 23 or 24. And now I basically don't care about it at all. And I find that transition, that arc, that plot arc to be very interesting. And I think that this is a very Nietzschean perspective, but I think that I hate to use the word ideology because that has so many connotations, but I think that the whatever like slot that is filled, that can be filled by religion or philosophy or oh, there's a word for this. It's metaphysics, I think. Whatever your personal, yeah, like, because those things kind of make up a given person's like personal metaphysic. And I do think that all of those things can either fill, like, they can either be adaptive and helpful, or they can be harmful and disruptive. And I, like, when I look at my own sort of trajectory of personal metaphysic, which started out kind of not really thinking about it, like when I was a younger kid, and then got into Christianity very intensely, and then kind of fell out of that and was sort of in this period of nihilism for a while, but was still looking for something, and eventually found philosophy, which I know is like very vague. Like saying I found philosophy is like saying I found religion, which is kind of a stupid statement to make. But like it filled a need that I had in my life at that time. And so it's very interesting for me to think about like what that need was and how it has now been filled such that I no longer have need for this category of thing anymore. And I think that, and I know that this is not like, I don't know, anybody who is either religious or just likes to think about reality primarily in terms of what is true rather than what is useful, which is probably most people, will probably find this way of talking about things to be very unappealing, which I totally get. I was always that person also, because like if you're not talking about what is true, if you're not trying to find what is true, literally what's the point of anything, right? And I get it, I really do. But, and again, this is a very Nietzschean perspective that will rub a lot of people the wrong way. If you can be realistic about the circumstances under which individual humans and groups of humans actually do adopt certain reality frameworks, or like certain religions, certain philosophies, certain ideologies, you kind of start to get a sense that it's probably not actually only about what is true. It probably, like, there probably is a pretty strong, oh my God. there's probably a pretty strong influence of like adaptiveness there too, because at the end of the day, if something isn't adaptive over a long enough span of time, or if something is like counter adaptive, it will eventually go away. That's kind of just how life works, and abstract conceptual ideas are no exception to that, in my opinion. So yeah, I first got into philosophy because a friend of mine would always like drop random quotes from philosophers, and I thought that made them seem really smart and cool, and I wanted to be smart and cool. So I found a used philosophy textbook at a used bookstore and read it from cover to cover, thoroughly enjoyed it. Truly a phenomenal book. Let me show it to you, actually. Highly recommend this book. Very cool that it's framed as a conversation, like over millennia between people who were not alive at the same time. I found the author's style like engaging and interesting, and yeah, it was just a great time. So I think so after I was not Christian anymore, after being very intensely Christian, I kind of felt this void of, I don't know, just like wanting something a little bit transcendent, or I don't know. It's kind of hard to even describe what I felt like was missing or what I was looking for. It could have just been that the only like alternative to subscribing to a specific religion was this kind of like, I don't know, like dead, angry, materialist, like atheist worldview, where it always seemed like people were just like kind of mad and condescending and like sticks in the mud. I don't know. And I didn't really want to be a part of that, but I also didn't believe in the tenets of any religion. So like discovering that there was this entire like history of really smart people who had, again, for millennia been analyzing and debating all of the questions that I found to be most important, like what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to live a good life? What is the nature of reality? What gives life purpose or meaning? There was something like very deep inside me that really wanted but also needed the answers to those questions, and I don't know why. Obviously, I'm not unique in that respect. A lot of people feel that way. I don't feel that way anymore. And truthfully, I'm not sure whether that's because I feel like I know the answers to those questions now, or because they just no longer seem that important to me. But I recall so clearly how important it felt to find those answers and to discover just this entire field, this whole field of people who are literally devoting their lives to answering those questions was just like so exciting and magical to me. And I just had a great time reading selections from different philosophers. I started a philosophy book club and made some great friends that way. It was truly a very rewarding time in my life. And as I talked about in a previous video, I discovered Nietzsche during that time, and his work had a really incredible impact on my life. How funny would it be to say that Nietzsche himself personally had a great impact on my life? I guess that's not like that weird of a way to say it, but I don't know, it's funny to think about since he's been dead for a long time. But yeah, I think now I'm like sort of thinking about this live and trying to figure it out live, and I'll probably have a better like analysis at some future time in some future video. But I think back then it felt like I needed to figure out like the abstracted like metaphysical underpinnings to life before I could really start to live. Like, I remember I had this thought so deeply and so many times, like I truly felt this in my soul, that I wished I could just pause time and read books, like, and learn things for months or years or decades, as long as it took for me to figure things out or get to the bottom of things, and then restart time and live my life. And, you know, that kind of supports this, like, I would call it a top-down, this is actually really funny. Right now, I would call that a top-down way of viewing life, feeling the need to start with abstract concepts in order to live life, experience life. But I'm pretty sure that back then, at least the way that I thought about things and the way that things felt to me, I conceptualized that exact same stance as a bottom-up stance. Like I needed to understand like the very basic underpinnings of reality before I could, I needed to have slots, like intellectual, conceptual slots into which I would then be able to like put specific data points from reality or specific experiences or events or whatever the case may be. So that's actually pretty interesting that what I now think of as top-down, I would have previously almost certainly described as like bottom-up. So yeah, that's how I felt during my brief but intense love affair with philosophy. And now, like four-ish years later, on the other side of basically all of the weird transformational life experiences that I've talked about in some of my other videos that I have put on this channel in the last couple of weeks, I cannot, for the life of me, get interested in a philosophy book. And like a couple friends of mine took over the philosophy book club that I started from me, and they'll still occasionally try to like compel me to actually read one of the books and come to one of the meetings. And I just can't reignite the flame. It's like, why would I want to read about some guy who's like tangled up in knots, all these elaborate knots in his brain, basically just sharing whatever whatever his, like, or her, most, the great bulk of philosophers that I have been exposed to are men, but there's some women. Um, the, like, they're just sharing, like, they're just sharing their opinion, you know? Like, this is just their opinion on how life is. And I I'm not really at a place in my life where I'm looking for that or need that or care about that. Like, why would I want to spend my time reading about that when I could learn something about real life, about real reality? Like, read a history book, read something about science, like, even read like a biography or a memoir, like something that shares actual data points from reality, something that shares actual things that happened in the world. And like through those real data points, I can construct and refine and, you know, break down and rebuild again my own personal, like, way of understanding reality and thinking about those big questions, like what it means to be human, what makes a good life, how things work, how reality is. And to me, I would describe that now as the bottom up approach, because you're starting with data and using that to build a framework. And of great note, I no longer remotely feel like it would be helpful or good or worthwhile or enjoyable to pause time, read a bunch of books, and then restart time to live my life. Like, I now feel like the learning and growing in knowledge, growing in understanding that matters the most and that actually increases knowledge, like, that comes from experience, that comes from existing in life in time. And, you know, it would always be nice to have more time to read, but like, sitting and reading in a vacuum without having real experiences in the world to kind of pressure test what you've read, like, you can get a really distorted worldview that way. And I mean, even experiencing things in reality, you can get a really distorted worldview. There's always a balance of those things, and it's becoming increasingly hard to find that balance in this day and age, where if you don't have the perspective of like the whole world and everything that has ever happened in it, like, somebody's going to call you biased and malicious. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of the story of me and philosophy. And who knows, like, maybe at some future point in my life I will have like accumulated all of these additional data points, and I will really need like an additional infusion of hearing about other people's frameworks in order to kind of organize things in my head, and as a new perspective, a new lens through which to look at life and look at reality and, you know, just shake things up a little bit. But yeah, for now, I don't feel that need at all. So anyway, if any of you have had any sort of similar experience, or if you can either relate to old Alyssa or current Alyssa, I would love to hear from you, because it really strikes me how, if old Alyssa and me now could have like talked to each other about this topic, we would have been probably just like shocked, like in disbelief that this other person who is us, who is me, could have such a radically different perspective on life, I guess, on like what's necessary for living life, for viewing the world, for understanding the world. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that for now. I hope that you're all doing good, and I'll see you tomorrow.